Canada may be opening up its dairy markets to the U.S., but the focus in Arizona is on Mexico's tariffs on U.S. dairy exports that are not addressed in the trade deal. While this building will be a place for high-impact research for things like Alzheimer's, it will also be home to the world's first compact free electron laser. Part of the restoration process is bringing in these dehumidifiers and air movers to remove the moisture out of the soaked up carpet and furniture. St. Mary's Food Bank will be out here all week in the days leading up to Thanksgiving, and while they're short turkey donations this time of the year, they're not short on volunteer work. Although all the cows here are organically fed and not given any steroids, Tim says at the end of the day, all it takes is a little bit of love. With temperatures creeping in the low 90s, the Department of Public Safety is warning parents with small children to take precautions to prevent drownings. The goal is to raise $675,000, which will go towards care and support for the over 140,000 people over the age of 65 in Arizona with Alzheimer's. With the recent rash of bike thefts and wheel thefts, police are urging students to use locks like this one that cannot be cut, and an additional lock for the back wheel so that can't be taken as well. It all came down to one out left in the bottom of the 10th inning. Cubs pitcher Mike Montgomery threw the game-winning pitch, a ground ball hit to third baseman Chris Bryant to end it all. The celebration began after a throw to first baseman Anthony Rizzo taking out Michael Martinez. And there you have it, folks. The Chicago Cubs win the 2016 World Series after 108 years. The men's team, on the other hand, gave Illini fans a sense of relief after 3 straight non-conference losses to Winthrop, West Virginia, and Florida State. The men won their ACC Big Ten game against North Carolina State 88-74. We're here in Urbana right now. As you can see, it's pretty overcast. We had some sun kind of peeking out earlier, but looks like some of that rain is going to start to come through. So now let's take a look at your FastCast. There's about 277,000 in-person ballots that have been cast today, which is up from about 165,000 in 2014 in the last midterm. Today it's been pretty smooth around Election Central. We haven't had that many problems. There were some problems in Chandler earlier today with a polling place that was not open, which hindered some people from voting. But most of the problems have been resolved pretty quickly. There was a request earlier to keep polls open until 9 p.m., but a judge has rejected that request. Tempe Police Sergeant Ronald Elcock identified the pedestrian as 49-year-old Elaine Herzberg, and Uber has identified the operator of the vehicle as Rafaela Vasquez. Sergeant Elcock says that the vehicle was in autonomous mode, but it does not appear that the vehicle attempted to slow down as Herzberg walked across the street. Since then, Arizona has suspended its self-driving Uber program pending the investigation. Autonomous cars sound like science fiction, but what if we told you that autonomous flight is coming our way? Reporter Victoria Valenzuela learned about the Airbus-sponsored research taking place at Arizona State University.
When President Trump announced a new trade deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, Arizona dairy farmers were optimistic. But now, 3 days later, reporter Jimmie Jackson explains why some are saying, not so fast.
Everybody was just amazed that the administration was actively talking about dairy trade. No administration for decades had ever really talked about dairy trade as a major component of any deal.
Jim Boyle is the owner of Jim Boyle Dairy, and while he thinks this trade deal was a step in the right direction for dairy farmers, he is still skeptical of the short-term effects that it will have on the dairy industry.
It is nice to have the trade deal done, at least the language completed. And there's a little bit more access to the Canadian market than we had before. The new USMCA essentially just retains all of the old NAFTA deals with Mexico.
One of the key details ends Canada's Class 7 dairy products that price other countries out of its market and dump what they call cheap dairy products in the U.S. Canada may be opening up its dairy markets to the U.S., but the focus in Arizona is on Mexico's tariffs on U.S. dairy exports that are not addressed in the trade deal.
The issue that happened was that during the new NAFTA negotiations, we placed tariffs on imported steel and aluminum and other products from Mexico and Canada, which then forced Mexico to place a number of tariffs on American agricultural products going south. That was a big hit to us. Arizona exports more dairy to Mexico than any other country, and Arizona dairy farmers say recent tariffs are hurting their profits. Still, Keith Murfield of United Dairymen of Arizona says, don't expect this to change the price of dairy products in stores.
I don't think what you saw here, you'll see really any difference in what the prices you pay, but it will at least give the producers a chance that maybe in the future the milk prices will go up.
Boyle says the impact in the new trade deal will be small and isn't going to significantly help the struggling dairy industry. In Mesa, Jimmie Jackson, Cronkite News.
The fight against Alzheimer's disease is one that 5.7 million Americans are faced with. Reporter Jimmie Jackson looks at how people affected and advocates in Arizona join the Alzheimer's Association and its annual walk to spread awareness to find a cure.
She went to the grocery store and we got a call from a farmer who lived outside of town about 20 miles saying he had found my mother and she was not able to get home. So we knew right away something was going on.
Chuck Hill attended the walk in support of his mother, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2000. He says after being personally touched by this disease, this is a cause that he will support as much as he can. Hill, as well as others, carried a purple flower, which represented people who lost loved ones to the disease.
Well, everybody has a different reason why they walk, and the flower ceremony is a powerful way to demonstrate people's different reasons for being here.
Yellow flowers represented those who are caregivers for people with Alzheimer's. According to the Alzheimer's Association, compared with caregivers of people without dementia, twice as many caregivers of those with dementia indicate substantial emotional, financial, and physical difficulties.
She lived with my dad and they lived in an independent living apartment for probably the first 8 years of the disease, but then the last few years we had to put her into a memory care unit because she began to wander and we couldn't keep up with her.
The goal is to raise $675,000, which will go towards care and support for the over 140,000 people over the age of 65 in Arizona with Alzheimer's.
We also do support groups, educations, things like that, and then in addition, a percent also goes to research. And there's some incredible research being done right here in Arizona.
In the absence of cures and treatments, Alzheimer's has a 100% mortality rate. Hill said early on his family exhausted themselves trying to correct his mother's memory, and his advice for others currently caring for a loved one with the disease is to not spend all their time fighting its progression.
You know, once we stopped fighting the progression of disease and just sort of learned to live with it, frankly, our home was much happier. And again, because we just sort of adapted as we went along.
The walk marks the beginning of Alzheimer's Awareness Month, which is the month of November. In Phoenix, Jimmie Jackson, Cronkite News. Thousands of people in cars lined up as they waited to collect turkeys and meal boxes for Thanksgiving. Some were there for food, and others were just there to help out. This year is particularly unusual for St. Mary's Food Bank's turkey drive, as they have seen a decrease in turkey donations to meet their goal.
So we should have enough for today and tomorrow, but if we don't receive more turkey donations from the public, we probably won't have enough on Wednesday.
His explanation for lower than normal donations might even surprise you.
I think that so many people have given to so many great causes over the last few months with all of the earthquakes and floods and fires that have happened. We've had a lot of disasters here in the last few months. A lot of people have opened their hearts, as rightly so they should.
St. Mary's Food Bank will be out here all week in the days leading up to Thanksgiving, and while they're short turkey donations this time of the year, they're not short on volunteer work.
We have more than 260 volunteers that are helping us over the 3 days. Over the 3 days, by the time we close our doors at noon on Wednesday, 12,000 families will be able to receive a turkey and all the trimmings that you need for a great Thanksgiving meal.
Not only did people give back by donating turkeys, people like Daniel Orozco gave their time.
I love coming out, volunteering. My wife and I both get involved in the community. Very fortunate to what we have, so we love giving to others and spending a little bit of time.
The meals provided will hopefully give people a chance to have a great Thanksgiving like the one Orozco will be having.
So this year we're spending it with my in-laws for Thanksgiving, and then my parents live up north, so we go up north for Christmas, rotate the holidays every year.
They are still accepting donations as they are over 1,000 short of their goal of 7,000 turkeys. In Phoenix, this is Jimmie Jackson. Teamwork, competition, and the sound of victory. For student athletes, playing sports in college is a unique experience, and detaching from the social life and mapping out future plans are part of the thought process they go through, like ASU rugby player Ryan Carroll.
My plans are, come May, hopefully I'm going to move out to, the plan is to move out to Texas. I might have a teaching job, teaching high school U.S. history and government and coaching.
Ryan is a senior at ASU playing his final home game with his team and says watching his team grow is what he will miss the most.
Rugby's also been a balance. It's been teaching me how to balance academics along with sports and making sure that get student athlete, getting the work done first in the classroom and then coming out on the field and taking care of business. So.
While Ryan attempts to make a seamless transition to his first job, others like Travis Campbell, a former University of New Mexico soccer player, completed the transition, but it wasn't without a few bumps in the road before he got to where he is today.
Had 4 surgeries within 2.5 years of being in college, so playing after the fact, after soccer or after college, going pro kind of relied on my body.
His many injuries are what inspired him to want to become a physical therapist and help others just like him. But it wasn't before long until even that plan started to fade.
Science and those kind of classes and potentially losing my scholarship kind of made me go a different path, and really enjoyed psychology. And from my freshman year on, I decided to do psychology.
Arizona State University is leading efforts to provide opportunities for athletes after their playing careers have ended. Its efforts include partnering with the Global Sport Institute and its CEO, Kenneth Shropshire, who says their key goal is to help athletes both complete their degrees and transition to the real world after sports.
A lot of the work we're doing is trying to pull together the best practices that other people are utilizing, and then also to take advantage of what ASU has available that's unique, especially things like the online education component. There's already a strong program within the athletic department of helping athletes once they've completed their degrees.
In his new book, The Miseducation of the Student Athlete, he stresses the fact that 98% of college athletes need to be prepared to find jobs outside of their playing careers and do well at them, while also mentioning the struggles of balancing sports, academics, and social life.
So especially today, and certain people that don't understand what goes on now, the amount of time that these guys have to put in doesn't allow them to have the internships, to have the regular student life, to engage in the kinds of things that you're talking about.
Travis's advice to student athletes is to set goals, but be realistic that going pro is not going to happen for everyone. Now he enjoys helping run his family's business.
Never in my life would I have thought I'm doing home improvement stuff when I've played sports and with psychology, wanted to do physical therapy. It's all nothing to do with home improvement, but no, it's been really fun and really cool to experience something different, I guess. But the pathway to it is definitely not the normal one, I would say.
In Phoenix, I am Jimmie Jackson.